Hey everybody, this is Tim Hinton, the Beast of the Marching Arts, and I am been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time. I'm here with Paul and Sandi Rennick. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Good to see you, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Thank you for stopping your very busy lives to talk with me tonight. I'm really everybody, we're just going to talk about not only how do they do the work and how they work together and some drummy stuff, but also I just want to talk to them about how they balance their life with all this very complicated drum corps and work in college and like you guys are busy and you have a family. Like this is all very interesting to me. The first thing I want to ask you is how are you guys doing? How's life?
Good. Busy.
We're good. Yeah. School's off and running and, it's the usual chaos.
Absolutely. And right. And I should say, of course, speaking of drum corps, another phenomenal, incredible, interesting, exciting, fun season that you guys did such great work. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. One of my favorites, I think, for sure.
Oh, really? Tell me why.
I think that these last couple of years, especially, have felt really maybe a little more special just because we were coming off of 23 and not coming out. So that feeling of just being, the feeling of gratitude to get to do the activity to begin with. But I feel like we've, especially in these last couple of years, just it's like almost like music that I've loved that I never thought we would ever do on the field. Mm-hmm. Like we've had that kind of challenge put to us, and just the team is phenomenal, and just super proud of the members and the team, and it's just it was awesome. I remember seeing the very first run through the one up in Idaho, and I was the first time I was seeing it live, and it was just absolutely blew me away. So that's always a good feeling.
Gosh, I know. And you're thinking like, wow, here I am and I'm getting to do this and look at these kids out here who are so ridiculous. Like amazing. It's very exciting. And we'll talk more about that when we get into sort of the process stuff. But I do, I am so appreciative that you guys are often part of this. I get to talk to drum corps people and staff members and designers and everybody during the summer. And whenever the Santa Clara crowd is on the screen, and I'm just like, oh my God, look at these. All these really ridiculous, famous, talented people, and like I'm getting to sit here and talk to them. Like I just feel like a kid in a candy store. I guess it's quite the crowd.
This show this year was probably. I mean, I think it's a fair statement to say the reaction of kind of the elder statesmen of the judging community and the people we know and respect, kind of really went out of their way to talk about this show. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's really happened as much before. And I just thought it was fantastic. We loved it. I never got tired of the show. And like Sandi was saying, I think that the older we get, the more brave we are in terms of doing music that we otherwise wouldn't consider. We did, and every one of these pieces that we did in the show has like a personal connection to us. We're doing a clinic at PASIC, and the clinic will basically be talking through the show and playing the show for everyone. And then it'll be, part of the story isn't just like how we arranged it or how it was dealt with the design team, but it was just like the choice of doing it in the first place, I think was probably the most interesting thing for us. Like doing music by George Crumb and by Arvo Pärt and, stuff that we've listened to since we were in our 20s, that we just, I don't know if I don't think that we could figure out a way to do it. Like at least in my mind, I'll figure out like, how would we do it? If we're going to do this, how would we do it? And I think drum corps has evolved to a place where I was talking to Evan Van Doren yesterday on a design call, and it was like back in I'd say in the 90s, we used to like look for music that would work from beginning to end, like a chart, you know what I mean? That you would play the whole chart. Yeah. And nowadays that's rarely, if ever, the case. It's always just moments that we're getting from music and putting them together with other things that pair up with it.
Yeah, so the process of putting the shows together is really different. And that's why there could be such a list of the songs that are being performed, right? They're part of the show. But I love that you just talked about this because I think, well, certainly the activity, as you just mentioned, has more tools in the tool belt than we used to, right? So there's more ways of figuring out how to use that song that you never imagined you could. But I love that you said something that really resonated with me, which is the older I get and the more I do it, I'll just speak for me, like the more I feel like well, I can figure out how to do that. Like there was a day when I was like, well, I can't do that song,
Right.
or anyway. And now I feel like, so does it just come with experience and success that you feel like, well, we can figure this out?
I think that's certainly part of it, but also not to understate the importance of the performers too, and what they can bring to the table. I think, certainly, like just thinking about the opening production, when it was all front ensemble and the horn soloists, and just the visual demand on the performers of that moment was just incredible. And it's hard to imagine, 20 years ago, like trying to pitch the same idea, or even, even 10. And that's what I think is so exciting, is it's almost like, we as the designers are pushing the members, but the members are challenging us to just like, give us more, and pushing. I don't know. It's like we're each driving each other to do our best work. It's really exciting just as we go into the future,
I actually think this might sound weird, but I think we're getting better at what we're doing. Okay. Honestly, I really do. I feel like it's we just have more experience. We've been doing it for longer. That I'd say that the process doesn't take quite as long as it used to. You know what I mean? Because I think we know what works. And what helps really in terms of that work on our end is if the desire level is there because of the music, that changes everything. You know what I mean? Like if we're writing something that we love and we really like this music and we really care about it, I think that's a huge part of the process that I think often goes unsaid. I think we don't write a million shows a year. And thank God for the people that do. I think that's a skill set that writing 15, 20 shows or whatever. I think we write for Vanguard and for the Troopers. And then we used to write for the UNT marching band. And that has since, they've been able to hire somebody in terms of adjunct to work directly with them. But it's kind of all we can do. That's how much I think we sort of dive into it is that it's detailed to the point where it takes months, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think trying to do that all with teaching at UNT and doing all, and like you said, having a family, like I can't imagine when any of that other stuff would take place and when we could write. I think it's like been and I'm certainly grateful for the fact that we can not have to do a whole lot of extra things like that. But it really, I feel like I don't know that I'd like music as much if I was writing a whole lot more. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny what you're saying about like the pressure of writing the piece that you really like is like, this can't be the show that ruins this forever for me, like this one, or, you don't want that to be like, well, I used to like this.
No. Now
I hate it. Yeah. Thankfully that doesn't happen.
That is really significant because that has happened to me. I'm so aware of that phenomenon. And like the last couple of years, I've done a couple shows and at the end of it, I thought, I still like this song. Yeah. I still like, and honestly, there were times when I'm like, I never want to hear this piece of music again, ever, as long as I live. So what is that?
I think it's just overexposure. I mean, you're exposed to the same thing because you're having to listen to the music while you write it over and over and over again. And, I just think that's basically it. I don't think you can immerse yourself in that world forever and not be affected by it. So we tend to, I don't know, have a pretty well-rounded life. It's not all work all the time, kind of thing. So.
Which is definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about. But before we get there, I think there's, what you said is true. I also think that it has to do with the quality of the music and the source that you're working with. And not getting, like, I did a show a couple of years ago of Stevie Wonder music, which was a big hit, right? But what I thought was so interesting was once I really started to study and listen to, oh man, what is that guitar player doing? Oh man, listen to what that set drummer's like and the vocalist. Oh my God. Like I got so into how virtuosic everybody on every, that's why Stevie Wonder music. But like I was so impressed with it that I loved it more at the end than less, because I was like every background singer is like amazing and sings in exactly the right style, blending perfectly. And I was just so into like studying how brilliant it was.
Right. The more you know, the more you like it.
Right. Whereas, I've done
in life in general. The more you know about something, the more you like
right.
it.
And you also said something about thinking like you're getting better. And I mean, I love that Paul and Sandi Rennick are saying that, because it gives all of us hope. Like, even at this point in your career, after doing all these great things, you're still getting better. And that's, of course, the way it should be. We all want to continue to improve at our craft.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it. Honestly, we are. I do think that's true. We every time we do something, we try to improve, and try to, either by not repeating the past, or just trying to find new ways of doing things, taking a couple chances, doing some pieces that that aren't, they don't work on its surface like right away. You have to figure out how to make them work. And I think both of us find that to be really interesting, just to make it work,
Well, and since there might be some band directors watching, I want to highlight that you just said, don't keep repeating what you've done in the past. I think that is brave and really hard for band directors, because band directors are under such pressure to be successful and produce something that's going to do well, and that their crowd would like, et cetera, that I find they really struggle with stretching and doing something that they don't know for sure will work. So do you want to speak to that a little bit more? Like, how do we tell them to be brave and take a chance when there's so much on the line?
That's tough, I think. We just we have a senior in her high school band program right now, and our son just graduated. So we see, as dedicated pit crew members at every football game, we've spent a lot, several years now with just, cheering from the sideline. And I don't know. I think in a lot of ways, it's hard because we work with so many great people that do the really competitive band thing, but I just view it as such an important, like, social activity for my kids that I don't want that to be their only thing. And I love that they get to play soccer and run cross country, because this is the time in their lives where they should be trying all the things. And it is hard when you see, like, if parents maybe only understand if we are coming in 5th place instead of 6th place, or if we're only coming in, and it's an unenviable position, I think, for a director to be in, because you're trying to make everybody happy. You're asking for a lot of money and a lot of time from the families and the kids. It's probably really challenging to keep it all in perspective as far as what is the purpose of this program.
Yeah. Teaching drum corps and seeing what we see in the high school band programs is, I don't want to say it's not even close, but it's pretty far away. Like what you were talking about, multitasking and organizing hundreds of kids and lots of equipment and constantly traveling and performing, and it's a lot to keep up with. I mean, they have 2 band directors and an assistant band director, and I sometimes think that's kind of not enough because of just how many things need to happen. So I totally would understand why you would go for the safe bet for the show. I totally get that. You know what I mean? Because once you open a can of worms, if it doesn't work right away, then you have to have the rehearsal time to fix it and to actually make it happen. And, there's all sorts of limits on that rehearsal time.
In Texas, at least. I don't know how it is elsewhere, but
a lot of places.
Well, and I think that's probably why teams are put in place as, design teams that work with schools every year reliably. And that's probably, I would imagine, a good reason for those relationships, just because you go with people that you already trust, and know the program. But yeah, I can't, again, we see all the things when we go up to, on Saturday, and we see some of obviously some just really incredible programs that kids are putting out. And it is pretty amazing.
But the advice, as far as, for band directors, it all has to start with an idea. There has to be an image in your mind about what could this be? Like, what haven't I seen, or what, and sometimes I think I used to do this when I was younger, which was, not make the entire show totally progressive and innovative and just totally different and new, but just part of it. You know what I mean? Just have like a stable like production or two in there that is reliable and safe and entertaining and everyone likes it, and then just take it out a little bit for part of the show. I would say that's probably the smartest bet to make. And then there has to be, like Sandy was just saying, like a lot of band directors nowadays, I can't imagine being a band director like we see our kids band directors and writing the whole show and writing all the drill. I don't think that's happening now. I think band directors are and I think the most important thing, I really do think, because you do see those relationships change. Like all of a sudden there's a whole new design staff for a place. And I think that connection with those designers and the band directors is essential. Like they have to be, the designer is trying to realize the band director's vision. So there's obviously two problems with that. The band director has to share his vision or her vision. You know what I mean? They have to actually communicate what they want it to be. And then the designers can't have an agenda of what they want to do rather than what the band director wants to do. I really do think the designer has to be in service of the band. And that usually only occurs when there's a solid relationship. When you can call somebody on the phone at any hour and you don't have to wait for the hour design meeting that you have every week. I mean, that's what I think is so different about Sandy and I, is we can talk about this stuff anytime we want. Like 11 p.m. Sandy's starting to doze off and I'll have an idea and I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And then, she won't respond right away, but then she'll sleep on it. And then in the morning, then we'll talk about it. So those conversations are ongoing pretty much. Like there's no schedule for those conversations. And I think the band director probably needs to find some designers that they're that comfortable with, that they can really, be vulnerable or sort of share their idea of what they think could work without being shot down. And then having a person on the other side trying to make that happen the best they can, even if it's a situation where we can't have the trumpets bounce on trampolines while they play the feature, but I have like a couple of alternatives, but what we could do, and have a couple of options, and then you could probably realize that vision.
Yeah. And gain that level of trust.
Yeah.
And sort of to your point also, maybe don't stretch in every way, but stretch in one way this year, right? Let's do this. Let's push ourselves here.
Right.
And not necessarily over here too. So I do want to ask you about this process of talking about things at home, but before we do that, you said that you are helping with the pit crew at your daughter's band, which I love. Do you have little outfits or something? Are you?
Yes. Yes.
I've got to hear about this.
Well, we actually just got shirts for this last thing, and
yesterday.
I think there's like racing wheels on the back on the marimba, and it says pit crew on the back. Yeah. I will tell you, I don't want to jinx it because we're going into area where they advance to area. That's this next weekend. But whether it's a speaker or any of that, like I feel like we are batting 1,000 over the last.
Our speakers have always worked.
5 years. 5 years of doing this in a row. Like we are a solid bet when
Tim,
it comes to pit
you
crew.
would laugh. It's not just us too. It's like Andy tracks the line.
Yeah, it's like a UNT faculty meeting that occurs.
Director of Wednesdays is pushing the marimba next to us. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah,
it's a good crew.
This makes me really happy, and I would really, really love to see a picture of you guys in those shirts. That would make me so happy too. I love this. So, all right. So, how do you balance like having a home life and then also working together? Because I do think like people, I have friends who work with their other half all the time, and I think, I guess you have to have rules about. Like, do you have rules about when not to talk, or do you just inherently have a balance of, man, I don't want to talk about the show tonight? Like, how do you guys manage that? Or is it just you guys are so in sync that that's not an issue?
We can have rules about this stuff. I never even knew that.
I was going to say, Tim, be careful what you're saying here. What are you doing?
I am so sorry. What have I done?
I think we have a really healthy way of looking at music in general. I mean, drum corps, believe it or not, is not our only outlet musically, and I think that is also a very important point to make.
True.
If you're only doing that, then that is what the entirety of music is for you. And I think what is helpful is getting your inspiration from other places, like other, you know, I just have so many things on my mind about all that. But it's just like the answer to your question is no. There's no rules. There's no time to not talk about something. Talking about things is really, even if it's just a fragmented conversation that happens over a couple of days. And then I think there's one misconception about writing that we do. We have this desk here. Like we built our office, and we have like a tandem desk setup. We've
had big dreams about this desk.
And I think it was initially, a lot of times we would work in an office at UNT, and Sandi would be at a separate desk and I'd be at another one. We'd be working at the same time. I think that's very unlikely now. That does not happen the same way. I'm a serious night owl, and she is an early riser, and I think that we've worked long enough so that we kind of get what each other already means. Like I can describe a section saying, hey, I think it would work if we did this, and Sandi will immediately say, oh, okay, I got it. And it's just because of all those historical references to stuff that we've done in the past. And I think there's a certain amount of like respect, and let somebody alone while they're actually doing the writing. Before the writing starts, and we talk as much as we possibly can. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready to write. So a lot of the backstory is where a lot of the time takes. You know what I mean? Like you got to think about it, and you got to really get it straight in your mind about what's going to happen here. And I'll usually draw out some kind of timeline from a form standpoint. And then Sandi will see that and analyze it. And then she'll say, well, what about here? And she'll just sort of like, tear that apart a little bit and sort of like alter it and change it. And that's in addition to the design team that we have. But when it comes to the actual pen to paper kind of thing, then it's like, just leave me alone and let me do this. And then we get together, and fortunately we work at a place where we write the music, which is another huge point. I think a lot of people, I can't say that enough. Like we get to write something and then pass it out and hear it. Like live and in person, right then and right there. And you would be, I just am so grateful for that, because I'm kind of like have a history in jazz, and I'm sort of improvisatory, a little less organized, and really good at like in the moment, making things what they need to be. And Sandi's a theory genius, and just the ability to travel from completely unrelated productions and get, you know what I mean? Like I create these fantastic harmonic bridges that get us to this magical place. And it's just all, I feel like I'm talking too much.
You're talking a perfect amount.
Okay. But I feel like we complement each other. Like the things that I'm really good at, and the things she's really good at are slightly different. And I think that's a really healthy thing, I think. So.
Yeah, I would say also just like I think they all kind of go hand in hand too, as far as like the balancing of all of that. As we've had a family that's drastically altered how we do this, and it's had to. I think I was just telling somebody about this. The last time, my last tour on the road, because I used to go on the road for most of the summer, was 06 Phantom Regiment, and I was pregnant with Colin, who's our oldest, that summer. And then, so all of a sudden getting ready for, the show in 07 and beyond, it was like, okay, I'm not going to be the one that's necessarily teaching this. I won't be the one in front of the group every day. And being able to write in a way that could be interpreted by the people working for us. Now, again, at this point in our career, and like we are lucky enough to still have people working with us that were working, or around shortly thereafter at that time. So they can translate the meaning. And we have, again, such a great relationship with all the staff that it works really well. But yeah, obviously that's been a huge transformation for me, is just simply the amount of time that I'm going to be able to be there, which is minimal, very minimal. So
what does that look like? Does that mean you have to write more things into the music than you would if you were going to be standing in front of them?
I have to leave. Well, a lot of times I'd be like, oh, I can just tell them what we're going to do when I'm there at the rehearsal, or, oh, we'll just work all this out when we're standing there with the battery, or, oh, like now it's a little, and there's still some of that a little bit, but But yeah, Paul's not, I mean, if you've been to a camp like where we're at, or when we're learning, putting something together, we put it together all, like the battery and the pit are together a lot. And I think we like hearing the music. I think that it's good for the members to hear how the music all fits together. And, that's when, Paul will say, okay, I need somebody to add this here. And then I needed, like we're just filling up the score with a lot of red pen just to edit later. But it's very rarely.
I think it would be totally different if I wasn't there. Don't you think? Like, well, yeah. Like we talk all the time on the phone. I mean, honestly, the moment we finish something, I can get on the phone and saying, hey, that works. That's really great. How about we make more of that later in this, you know what I mean? And this will be just on the phone directly at a rehearsal. And I think, I don't know if that relationship exists everywhere in terms of just, so she can write something, even if it's implied, like with a couple of words or whatever, and then I can take it to rehearsal and make it into what it should be. So I think that's a part of the process, No,
I think that's really interesting. And of course, you've alluded to something that's really important that I certainly know is that I have certain people I've worked with so long that there's a shorthand, right? And they can almost reading each other's mind kind of thing. Like, or, oh yeah, remember we did that over here in this show, and let's do something like that. And then like, no. And you don't have to stop and explain. And that's such a wonderful gift to have. And you guys, of course, have so many years now of sort of working symbiotically.
We oftentimes will meet the group in the beginning of the year, and we'll just lay it all out and talk about life and talk about things. And this is some of my favorite times is talking to the group in the morning and the first thing, And I just think that we are so open with the process that we're, you know what I mean? Like it's not like, how can I say this? Like by the end of a weekend camp, a lot of the productions will go through a transformation from Friday night until Sunday afternoon, and then it'll go like a journey until we get to the end. And many times, that is what it is, and we don't really have to change it very much because that process is so fluid. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think
you're explaining it to them that this is going to be the process. This is the key.
And we joke that we have two jobs. Our job is to write cool music, pick a cool show, and pick the right people. And I think that applies to the staff as well as it does to the students. I mean, we spend a lot of time just trying to get the right personalities there so that you can work freely, like what you're describing about your friend. It's just like we are fortunate to have a bunch of those people around who all are working together, and so our we obviously were a little bit older, so I feel like part of my job now has become to create an environment that everyone can thrive in. People can play at their best in this environment that we're going to create. And before, I think when we were younger, it was just all about teaching notes and teaching the music and getting them to play well. But now it's more of a holistic sort of,
Gosh, Paul, that is so wonderful. I mean, I've had this conversation recently with someone about how I was in certain groups where someone was a screamer and they were yelling and intimidating, and I couldn't even play my best, nowhere near, right? And, so not only are you picking the right people and you're creating an environment where they're comfortable, but I love that you're talking about explaining to them, okay, this is how our process works. The show's going to keep changing. We're going to be exploring. And like you bring them into this exciting journey by being honest about it and explaining it to them. I don't think people always take enough time to do that.
Yeah, you think it's like a big race to the finish. We're so worried about getting it out there, but I think we're definitely worried about getting it out there right the first time. Again, once we sign off and we finish that rehearsal, it's like that's what it needs to be. And it's surprising to me, even to this day, how little it changes after that.
Because you took the time in the process to figure it out. Sandi, I did a conversation with you. I can't remember which one it was. You've been nice enough to talk to me a number of times. I think it might have been with Lauren Teal, but you talked about how if you were making a change to the music, that you sat down, you explained to the performers, like, here's why we're changing this, and this is because the show needs this, and they changed this part of the drill, whatever. And so it wasn't personal, Like we're taking your music away. And I thought that was really profound. That stuck with me all this time.
Yeah.
Well, we joke about that still with the members. Like we're the only ones allowed to be emotionally attached to anything, and so, or a lot of times I'll just say, arranger error. I need this to be somewhere else. But yeah, I think a lot of the students, I don't know, maybe that they have a different idea, especially if they come from they have different experiences in other places where they maybe aren't. It's like a different process. I think I don't know. I think communication is really important, and them understanding. It's like what Paul was talking about before, is like you learn more about the Stevie Wonder music, and so you understood it better, which caused you to appreciate it more. And Paul says that, and like that's what he's known for saying. That's one of his things, is that with knowledge comes understanding, with understanding comes appreciation. And I think that it permeates every aspect of this. Well, everything. And for the students too, and they understand the bigger picture. It's not a personal thing. Like, okay, I know you loved that, whatever it was, but in the big picture, we really need that to actually be over something totally different. And again, I feel like, they are children, but at the same time, it's really, I think, getting them excited. It's like playing a team sport, understanding what your role is within the team. I think that's one thing that's been really great, I think, about our groups, is that feeling of the we before me mentality that I think we really try to put there. And that goes with the staff as well. And, it just kind of becomes about us, the collective us, and from top to bottom, even from the construction.
That's, when you say like the light bulb goes off in the student, a lot of times that light bulb isn't just like they can figure out how to play the part. They figure out the greater context, or they figure out like something about the music, just like historically or whatever it is. And I think once they understand that, then it's the train's going. Everyone's on the same play. Everyone's going in the same direction, and it feels really good. Just one quick story about last year's show. We started the show, I think, in a really interesting way, and I think we're very conscious to make sure we play enough. That doesn't sound right, but it's true. Educationally speaking, I think it's an expensive thing to do. They spend months doing it. There has to be a greater purpose, right? It can't be just to learn the show and try to play it right. There has to be a deeper reason for this. And I remember that's why when we started exploring different music, that was a lot more contemporary, not initially appealing to everyone all the time. Getting them to really understand that music it was fascinating. They bought in, they invested in themselves into it so much because they understood like what this was. And we opened the show with a combination of tunes that I never actually would think would work, but I think Evan was more about like Evan Van Doren, the brass arranger, is a good friend. I think we are extremely lucky to be part of the design team we are, because we just get along so well. I had a design meeting yesterday with the music guys, and it was just like friends. It was really, really comfortable. And so I was doing a faculty recital. I would have played this piece for flute and 3 percussionists, amplified flute, and it's George Crumb's. It's called "The Idol of the Misbegotten." And for anyone that's ever played that piece in the audience, one of the most memorable things about the whole piece is the beginning. Like there's an initial statement, and then it just boils down to the quietest moment you ever heard, like on stage. And I think the last time we played it, I physically heard people breathing in the audience. And it was such an effect. I thought, wow. And in the moment on stage, I thought, that's effect. That really is effective. And so we took that piece, just the inspiration of the piece, not the piece itself. And then we combined it with a piece by Arvo Pärt called Fretras, which is his probably most famous work, or at least the most arranged and redone pieces. And it's just never, it's one of the top 3 things I've ever heard in my life. And so much so that I never even tried to do it. I don't think we ever would touch it, but then it was like that moment, the serenity of that moment in terms of how quiet it was and how beautiful, and the space around it, then we just laid down the first 4 chords of fretless. And that whole beginning of the show, that moment, really, you could hear a pin drop. And it was like, that effect was recreated by combining those 2 elements together and creating it. And that led Mike Gaines to suggesting like a developmental piece that involved the bass drummers, visually and everything. And so as a design team, we're all sort of working together, and everyone feels totally free to chime in and say, well, what if we did this? Or, and it's just totally supportive. It's fantastic. So.
And really brave. And I mean, I guess we all think, well, they can be extra brave when they're at Santa Clara with all those students and all those brilliant people, but still, you guys are putting it on the line every time. You know what I mean? Like, we're all leaning in. Well, what are Paul and Sandy doing this time? And can they do that again? Like, I know you're probably past worrying about that now. You're just like trying to have fun, make great shows. Like, I understand that you're probably not in the thick of all that, but
I don't know. I think
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think that for us, again, like with this team, it's really inspiring, I think, still. And I don't know, it's exciting. I'm excited for this next year. It's hard to imagine. This is, I'm trying to math real fast. I think this is our 28th show together.
Seriously?
28, maybe. I don't know. Maybe 8th show together. But I think it's more like 28th, and it's kind of crazy. But yeah, it really feels like, especially with the team in place and the people we work with, it doesn't feel like that. It's just exciting. Like, again, I loved the Kendrick Lamar stuff in 24, and I loved what we were doing last year. And I'm just really excited. I just believe in what we do so much. I think one thing that doesn't change, we were talking about this actually a couple of days ago, is, like, I think one thing that, regardless of where we've worked at or who else we've been working with and all that, like, our musical values and like things that we believe in and things that we think are important, I think those we've always really kind of held true to that. And so I feel like we will, I don't know. That's why it always just is like new and exciting. And I think we're always just looking at the next, like, what's the next one? Like, okay, I'm really proud of that. And now let's keep moving forward.
Yeah. It's a dangerous thing when if you have any success for any group. This is for the band, the theoretical band directors listening to now. It's difficult when you have success to not try to repeat that success.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a total challenge to not just fall into that gap. So I think we, as a team, we purposely try not to. We purposely will like write down the things that we did that were really successful and that we don't want to repeat again. And sometimes it's tough, man, because those things really worked. And it's like, but years later, you can pick from that tree a little bit, and then it'll be different. It'll be slightly different because of time.
Well, and as Sandy said, there's also core principles and values and approaches to teaching and writing that are core things that aren't going to change. And that's sort of where you hang your hat, right? Like, okay, so we're not going to use that particular effect, but we're still going to write this way. We're still going to give this kind of experience to the students. We're still going to talk to them in a certain way and treat them a certain way. Those things, I think, are really key to who you both are, and how successful you've been.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Did you say that you have one big long desk that you? Yeah. I'm jumping back, but like, did you have one desk that you sat together?
So it's a long desk with like a it looks like a big oversized T.
We
so
were we
with,
had
with
high
a
hopes.
Side desk that splits it.
Yeah, before the kids had to actually attend school, I could stay up as late as I wanted to, and then now. So it's like basically there's a place for me to work on one side. We're on my side right now, and then on the other side is Paul's side, and then there's just it juts out to the left, which Paul has covered with all of his things. So I have like, he has an L, and I have like a line, a dash. I have a slight dash. And but no, and actually I don't write in here at all. I write at the Starbucks down the street from our house usually, because if I'm here at the house and the kids are at school, which is usually when I'm writing, I will then start doing the laundry, and then I'll go out and like throw the toy for the dog in the pool. And then I'll get busy doing everything but what I probably need to do. So I have to set some pretty clear parameters. It's funny. I do the same thing when I'm writing, or like Paul will say, all right, we've got 45 seconds and that's this many measure, I'll figure out how many measures at that tempo, and I'll get my form all set up. It's like, I need those, and just actually putting the notes on the page. It'll be like, okay, I have 1 hour before I have to pick up Claire. I have to get from here to here. And I've been riding that wave for probably like since Colin was a baby. So it's been about 18 years of that kind of crisis writing, just during during the time I have. And but
we know that the crisis writing is coming, so it's not like a mystery.
And the kids all know it's coming too. Like,
and so we carve out, like, if I have to do something, it's like I got to get something done. Sandy will take all the kids and we'll go on a road trip. Yeah. We'll go do something, and vice versa. If Sandy's got to go, I'll take over completely, and then just allow that other person to have that freedom to do that.
So you're answering some of the questions I had about how do you do this with the family. So you're into that explanation, which I really appreciate. Sandy, are you writing by hand at Starbucks, or are you taking a computer? Like, I'm trying to imagine what this looks like, because I have a keyboard and I don't know what to use.
My keyboard is actually right over here. I had to clean up my area to fit Paul over here. Yeah, I travel. I have this.
Ah, okay.
And then, and I have a laptop. I started writing on a laptop, believe it or not, in about 2014. I moved off of a desktop because we got a dog, our first dog, and he didn't like it because he was a puppy. I couldn't just go in this office and close the door and write. So I started writing out at the kitchen table on like a second laptop that we had. So I've completely moved into that.
And super late at night, I'll be writing, and the dog will come in and sit right down at my feet.
The dog has no issue with Paul writing in the office. It's just when I want to do it. But I just go to Starbucks. Sometimes I don't bring my charger, and I'm like, I've got 39% battery life, and that is what I have. And because it's like, it's sometimes when you give yourself like the 6 weeks to do a task, it's going to take you 6 weeks, even if you do all the work in that last 4 hours. So I guess I just try to create those little scenarios more often. I'm
a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
We like to call it.
Well, but I love this. This makes a lot of sense.
There is no deadline in the world like kids.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there is if you're going to pick them up from elementary school, you got to be there on the money. And there is no wiggle room when it comes to that.
Yeah, so they're going to call you. The office is going to call. They're going to shame you for not being there. It's not a good feeling.
They don't care that you're writing for the top drum corps in the world. That does not matter.
They don't care about the drum corps and how well we're going to do. They really don't.
What do your kids think about all of this?
That's funny. Katie actually loved that. Our senior, she's a senior, and she is the one that has my car and my credit card and our youngest, and they're out tooling around. I think they were going to Target after Chipotle tonight.
You sent them away so you could do this with me right now, which I love.
Yeah. No, it's actually really funny because all three of them play percussion. They all play piano and took piano lessons, and then all three play percussion. Our oldest, who's a freshman in college now, he was in band all 7 years that you could do band, and now Katie is in her senior year, and she's the section leader of the drum line, playing snare drum. And the best was actually right before they played on Saturday, she goes, and I think only percussionists will find this funny, but she was like, "Hey, Dad, you gonna tune our drums?" Because that's like what he always is doing in the lot, like whenever I would bring them to shows. So I've got a couple of good. This is the first time he was asked to participate in that manner, but I think they find it fun. They just started coming to. We brought them to finals this last year, and that was the first time they'd seen the whole thing. But they've definitely grown up through the drum corps. So I don't think they think it's really that special or cool. Honestly,
I think everybody does it.
It's
just what mom and dad do, right? So isn't that funny?
Here we go again. I guess.
Paul, I know you're like the most mild-mannered person I know, and I haven't mentioned your great hair tonight. I'm just not going to bring that up at all. But was it weird for, I would think if I was on the band staff and Paul Rennick is there pushing marimbas out, and I know you're just so nice that probably you keep it from getting weird.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I remember meeting our kids' percussion instructor before they went into high school, and this was at a rehearsal at Santa Clara, and we had a lunch break, and we all got into a car on a lunch break, and it was total silence. I mean, like you could have cut it. And then I learned that the guy sitting in the back seat was going to be my kid's percussion teacher, and you're exactly right. It's just like I just go way overboard to make it not weird. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just like if I stay busy helping and do things like that, then
yeah,
that's my job. And
that's very kind.
I'm totally okay with that.
Well, and I think it's really important for our kids too to have their own lives as musicians. I think we decided to make it that way. I think we were really wanting them to not feel that because I'm sure there was, they felt like there maybe would be an expectation of how well they would be playing or how good they were at this or that, especially being percussionists as well. And so again, something I learned from a good friend was because his kid was a little older than our oldest, was that he learned how to ask, like, do you want me to listen as a teacher or do you want me to listen as your dad? And then the kid was like, I want you to listen as my dad. Yeah. And so we've definitely tried to take that role on through all of it, even through piano lessons and all that. Like they have a piano teacher. I get into really funny arguments with our youngest about like this, does E flat have 3 flats? Like we will still argue about all of these things all the time. And it's funny now. But yeah, I feel like, again, setting those boundaries, I think it's been really important for the kids. Like even like Katie asking him to tune the drums, like that's, there were a few years ago when for whatever reason, there was a scheduling issue and they didn't have an instructor for a summer camp. And I would say, can I please just come? Can we just go in? Like, can we just come spend the day with you guys? We'll help out. And at that time they were like, do not even think about getting out of this car and going inside. Totally. It's like, okay,
don't embarrass us.
Yeah. Like we'll leave it up to you. And, but man, yeah, we are so into it. We are into it because we love watching them. It's such a gift that we get to see them do something that they care about. I mean, we go to the away football games. We go to all the things because it's just such a blip in their lives that we get to, just get to see this for this. There's such a short period of time. So
bottom line, we're their parents and not their music teachers.
So we don't make it weird with the band directors. We're just going to be geeking out over our kids, taking pictures.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I love that. And like, you're so clear on this is the hat I'm wearing tonight. Yeah. And then you're such just nice people that like you have a way of putting everybody at ease and making it all okay. And I love that. But the idea that you're so aware of how important this moment is and how you want to be there for your student and your kid in the right way. And like you're happy to wear the band mom hat. Like that's so great because that's the way it should be. Like this makes me really happy. And I knew that, but I wanted to hear you say it.
Well, they don't. How do I say
Every
that?
time that we've seen a student who is essentially being taught by their parent musically, I don't know if it's worked out. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to derail the thing and say the wrong thing or whatever. So we just like Sandi was saying, we have music teachers for them.
Well, and I think it's probably hard to separate as musicians. Like you feel like there's a pressure, like what does that say about us if you can't like make all state or you don't know all the 4-mallet solos that have ever been written? It's like, I honestly don't know that any of my kids know how to hold 4 mallets. I'm happy to help them if they ever want to learn or, Paul, like what it's like, that is, I want them to just, when they need us, it's like they need mom and dad. They don't need,
Yeah. And then when they do finally ask a question, like, can you tune my drum or
then we're like, yes.
Or can I, can I play this for you or something? Then it's a big victory. And it's like, it's all positive after that. So,
yeah.
I love that. That makes me so happy to hear you say all that. And I love that you're focusing on this is my kid and they are who they are. And I'm going to let them explore and grow and be who they are. And like, you're not forcing anything. And that's just great parenting. And I feel like a lot of parents can't do that. Like they're so helicopter and you have to be this thing that I'm imagining you will be. And I don't think that ever works.
Yeah,
I'm not a parent, but this is my theory.
No, you're exactly right on. Yes. It's like it's like we're surfing. You know what I mean? We got to stay on the board, no matter what. So.
Well, you know, when I was first talking with you guys about setting up a date to have this conversation, and again, I so appreciate you doing this. Like you had mentioned, oh, we're taking college to college, and I had a little bit of a freak out, a personal freak out, because I was like, now wait a minute. When I remember first starting to talk to you guys, it's been a long time now because I've been doing this a long time, but I was like, I think he was like,
yeah,
you know, so it's weird for me when time flies. So I guess you're always aware of this too. Like you just said it, Sandi, like it flies by.
Yeah.
You know, one person that is like firsthand is Tony DiCarlo. It's really funny because we bring our kids to the show. I mean, we've been bringing our kids to the show since they're like in Bjorn's,
like carrying them carriers.
And so, and now we last at finals, we pull them on and say, "Hey, Tony, come here." And yeah, my son is like taller than I am, and he's, you know what I mean? Yeah.
We got some pretty good pictures, and it's funny because when before they were in school or their kindergarten, first grade, you know, running out, he would, you know, Katie, he would have our daughter like cue the announcer, you know, like at San Antonio and all that. It's so funny because they don't remember any of it, and but it's kind of mind blowing to think that much time has passed. But Colin, he is in college, and it's horrible and an emotional roller coaster, and it's amazing all at once. It's a lot. Yeah. So.
Well, I just think you're two of the nicest people I've ever met. And so that everything you've explained tonight, like, makes perfect sense to me, because you feel like you have this balance, and it's, that's sort of how you are, you know, like you don't stand in front of the kids and scream and get intense. Like you're like, well, let's make music. Right. And I feel like that's sort of how you approach everything. And I think this is so healthy. And so I'm happy to share this because I want everybody to be inspired to try to, you know, just like focus on the important things and take care of your kids. And I don't know, it's all very nice to me.
Nice. I'm sure we don't have much time, but that opens a whole can of worms about teaching techniques and like how you teach and the words you choose to use for your students. And, you know, and it's funny, we've talked many times about if a teacher says something that's really personal and cutting and not nice, and they're digging on I've talked to a million people, and it's hard to forget that. You know what I mean? People remember that moment forever. But then the positive, all of that stuff tends to go away. So you have to fill that bucket a lot more, because they'll never forget a bad word. But, you know, you can outnumber that with positive, you know, tell them what you want them to do rather than yell at them for what they just did wrong, you know? So we kind of create, that's what I meant about like creating an environment. And we teach the same way in terms of that, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and I have to say, I've said this to you before, but I don't know why I'm throwing this in at the very end, but my all-time favorite drum corps front ensemble break is Castle on a Cloud. And I'm never, ever going to get over that. Like that, just still to this day, I get emotional just thinking about it because I just thought it was so wonderful. So I want to thank you for giving me that moment in my musical career, because that
when you always say such nice things about that. I actually still remember running into you. It was like at Lucas Oil, right? Late at night. Yeah. It was after the show. And
first time I met you guys, I think, in person.
And Claire, who is a 7th grader, she was probably in the stroller because she would have been a baby still, so we would have taken her to finals. It's like she was still like she'd stay where you put her. But so I'm sure we had her, but that's what 2013 says to me, is that was the year she was born. And but yeah, wow. It's funny. Paul always likes to remember, he knows exactly what I'm about to say, which is, for a long time, I don't think it's necessarily this way anymore, our process usually was Paul would tell me his idea for something, I would tell him what a terrible idea that was and how that would then never work. And one of the main times that happened was Castle on a Cloud, or the front. I was like, what a terrible idea. And I was probably pregnant still with Claire. That
gives you a pass right there.
I think it should, but that definitely, he just takes it. So that's what our process too, is I have to then tell him what terrible ideas they all have.
It'll never work.
How are we even going to have a drum corps this summer with such terrible ideas? Yeah. And it's been several years of those. but they all turn out okay.
They all seem to work.
So then I go, you know what? That's the problem now, Tim, is in like 24 and 25, like I was totally into the shows. And then I was like, well,
If
what does
Sandi
this
likes
say?
it, then look out.
I like this, and I think
Yeah.
this is a great idea. We should do this. Does this mean, it's not going to work?
I remember in
I don't even know.
2013 we had decided to do Les Mis as a second choice. Is that right?
Oh, that's
to the show,
right.
like it wasn't the original idea for the
Yes.
show. And then something didn't pan out. I think we started arranging some things, and
Yeah.
it wasn't going to work or whatever. And then we just decided, like, you know what, like Les Mis probably could be done again in a different way. We have a different way of thinking about it. And then we were sitting around and going, well, I guess if we're going to do Les Mis, I guess we better see the movie.
Yeah, we went and saw the movie.
And that's when and totally, I'm guilty of not being able to enjoy anything anymore. Just like I analyzed the whole soundtrack and everything, and then heard Castle on the Cloud, and I thought, wow, that's perfect. And I kind of knew what Sandi could do with that. You know what I mean? Like I knew that was right up the wheelhouse. That was perfectly. And then when she resisted and said how bad it was, then I knew I was onto something.
Yeah, I have this knack for loving like these little unimportant songs in musicals that I think are just brilliant moments that people don't notice. And that is my favorite part of Les Mis is when that little girl sings that song. And I've always thought, this is so brilliant. Like, who thought of this? I think does it open the second act? Am I right?
It gets to such an intimate moment.
Yeah, it's just wonderful.
That intimacy is honestly what the front ensemble sort of needs. You need that sort of sheltered sort of piece or whatever, so that they're not trying to compete with the volume level of the core.
Yeah, it's like the friendly hug of the activity.
Yeah,
right. Well, all right. I've kept you longer than I even meant to. You guys are just wonderful. Thank you for stopping to do this. I do think I'm like such huge fans of everything you do and the fact that you have this wonderful balanced life. You're taking care of your kids, and thank you for giving us wonderful musical moments over and over and over. And of course, those students that are having those great experiences and all the things you do. Thank you for that too. Anything you want to say as we're hanging up here and finishing?
Thank you so much, Tim.
It's always great to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This was so much fun. Thank you, guys. Thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate it very much.